The COYGIG Pod
on Off the Ball
in association with Cadbury, official snack partner of the Republic of Ireland women's national team.
Katie McCabe, a huge goal.
I'm very proud of the team's performance.
We're going to go out there to beat them. We're going to try and beat them.
Hello and welcome to a very special emergency episode of the COYGIG podcast. Kathleen McNamee here with you, and I am joined by Emma Carroll to react to the breaking news last night that Vera Pauw will not continue as the manager of the Irish national team. That comes after a 2-week review, or a review that went in about 2 weeks ago. It was submitted and finalised into her tenure as the coach, and also how the World Cup unfolded. Now, obviously, this is something that we felt like has been coming for a bit of a while. Emma, on the outside, it looked kind of obvious what was going to happen, but I think a lot of people, especially fans, were still kind of shocked.
Yep. If you look online, a lot of the reaction is like, why is this happening? So, and not just fans, there is some parts of the media as well and corporate sponsors and stuff like that. Like, we can't be under any illusion. Like, she did make history and get us to a World Cup, but the bigger factor is like, how can we progress from here? And if her tactics and stuff that's going on in the background has only brought us this far, and the players seem to feel that that is as far as she can bring us, then we need to look at our options. And I think the FAI have probably eventually made the right decision. They probably handled it quite badly over the last few months, but ultimately after a review, which should be done probably after every World Cup, probably the correct decision for everybody to move on has been made.
Yeah, just to explain to people a little bit in terms of the process and how it all worked. So I don't think it's mad unusual in football for a review to be done after a World Cup, no matter how things go, and especially if a contract is up for a manager. It's not that unusual, as was the case with Vera Pauw. Her contract ends at the end of this month, so basically the end of this week she will be out of her role. Mark Canham, who is the director of football within the FAI, he was tasked with putting together a report that would look at her tenure prior to the World Cup and everything that happened during the World Cup. Now, obviously, the stuff that went on during the World Cup was quite public, and that herself and Katie McCabe having not agreeing, shall we go with, on certain things. So he did a report, talked to all the players, talked to her, talked to the coaching staff, and then that report was presented to the FAI board last night by himself and also Jonathan Hill, who is CEO of Ireland of the FAI, and then they had to make a decision based off of that report through the board of directors. So the report, we haven't actually got the findings of it, and I doubt we will. We might hear a few leaks and stuff. It's actually been kind of strange though. There hasn't been as many leaks over the last couple of weeks in terms of what players were saying, but the few bits that have been reported is that there was only 2 players on the squad who actually wanted her to remain as Ireland manager. And I know a lot of people have said to me over recent weeks, well, for footballing reasons alone, should she not get a new contract? But I don't really understand why people, I agree there's the football side of things, but like, it's kind of in the name, you're a manager, you manage people.
I think from the footballing reason thing, like, yes, she brought us to a World Cup, which is probably the pinnacle for us, but okay, the results in the World Cup, we scored 1 goal and we got 1 point. Obviously there's room to grow from there, so to bring somebody in that can improve us and grow from there. Obviously this is going to put an awful lot of pressure on us to qualify for the Euros and for the players, because if it's seen as player power, which seems to be a lot of what's going around, and I don't really like that phrase because I think it's negative connotations. And obviously there's egos in the squad, because there has to be, for players to want to push themselves and get to an elite level, there has to be a certain amount of ego there. But I think from the football point of view, is it really from a footballing point of view if we play 5 at the back? And people can have their opinions on which way we play, but there has been rumours that a lot of the squad was taking things into their own hand, like during games, which it came out when the Nigeria game, when Vera was saying about Katie and stuff like that. But I didn't see a problem with that. I think players have a right, and anybody has a right to kind of suggest things, like the players on the pitch. I think it's in any kind of industry. Like, you can suggest stuff to your managers, and like, people don't always have to agree. Yes, ultimately the manager is going to be making the decision, and that's fine. Like, I can see that happening in male and female footballers. Like, I'm sure Steven Gerrard has had those run-ins with Rafa Benitez. Do you know, like, it has to be a thing. Like, this has to happen. Like,
and I think there's a general acceptance as well, especially in the heat of a game, that, you know, there's like 60-odd thousand people shouting. You're in the heat of a match. Things maybe aren't going the way you want them to go. You might be a little bit frustrated. You're going to shout at the manager. Manager might shout back at you, or sure, like, you even see the managers on the sideline screaming at players to do things. Like, I think it was probably all the stuff that happened afterwards that escalated a little bit more. And like, credit where it's due, Vera Pauw's footballing system did get us there. I do think she came in at the right time. Like, I think we hit a peak where, after the disappointment of not qualifying for the Euros, I feel like there really was a shift change in mentality with the team in terms of what they wanted to do and what they wanted to achieve as a group. And like, you even see it with, say, the likes of Courtney Brosnan. Like, a lot of the work that she did, that was with Everton, and like, I'm sure the national team setup also helped in that, but obviously you're with your club a lot more. There was a lot of like personal development between players, and I think we were inching towards getting to that World Cup one way or another. I think it'll be interesting to see what the players say in the coming weeks, or if we get to hear from Vera Pauw as well. Obviously we'll be chasing that interview like probably every other Irish podcast and journalist at the moment. One of the things that comes up in this sort of situation is what you mentioned about the player power, and again, I'm kind of with you on that. I'm not a massive fan of that phrase, because I do think it has quite negative connotations, and I think, you know, 21 odd people say that they don't like someone, or they don't want to continue with a certain management style. I don't think players should be done down for that. I think definitely questions can be asked as to, you know, well, why did you feel that way? The public facing thing all along has been that Vera Pauw gets on with us, we're, you know, committed to that style of football. I think we will need to ask those questions in the coming sort of weeks. But do you think there is any way that Vera can feel a little bit aggrieved maybe, and I suppose wondering, you know, feeling like that the players do have a little bit to blame, because they are the people on the pitch at the end of the day?
Obviously she's going to feel like that. She's not going to go, yeah, okay, great, I got you to a World Cup, and that's all we can say on the matter. Of course she's going to feel a bit aggrieved by it. Like, we don't know what's going on in the dressing room and the reasons for it, but there was a review, as you said, and you would have to hope that the reasons are legitimate reasons for this. But ultimately her contract was up, and if they felt that now was the time to move on and try push forward and not renew, then like, that's fair enough. I know there's people saying that should he have signed the contract before the World Cup, but I don't think you sign a contract ahead of a big tournament, because anything can happen in that tournament. I think the right thing to do was hold off, let the tournament happen, do the review, and then move on from there.
I always wonder whenever coaches get contracts before a tournament. The same with like Jorge Vilda, like last summer, before the summers, unless it's, I don't know, Serena Wiegmann or someone who is absolutely standout coach, has like proven track record success, and there's a lot of people sniffing around trying to attract her, or like, I don't know, an Emma Hayes or something like that. I feel like it's much smarter to leave it until the end of the tournament and do a full review. Yeah,
especially in this case because of all of the background stuff as well that's been happening in America, and with Houston Dash as well. Like, you don't know if she's going to sign a new contract, and are we going to get more articles in 6 months' time, and this brings more negativity to the camp. Like, I feel like we didn't get enough time to be excited about going to the World Cup, because everything that was going around from the minute we qualified to right up to when the Irish team left, and that press conference just before they headed off, it was all just negativity. So I think it's time to move on.
Yeah, it's interesting. I asked a couple of the people who listened to the COYGIG Pod on Twitter last night what they thought about it. Kind of mixed ones. Jamie says, I agree with the decision. To be honest, we need a more attack-minded coach, which I think is a lot of people's hope for whoever does come in. We don't really have a clear indication as to who the FAI might be lining up. We just got confirmation there about 5 minutes before we started recording that Eileen Gleeson will be the interim manager for those first two Nations League games, the first one in the Aviva against Northern Ireland and then against Hungary. That one's over in Budapest, and I think it's Tom Elms, who was Vera's assistant, is going to be supporting her. So there is a continuity there, which is good, because I think people kind of forget that, yeah, it's cool that we're playing in the Aviva for the first time, but also these games really matter if we want to qualify, and we are stuck in League B, which is not where we want to be. So yeah, that's definitely going to be really important going forward. Leah Russell says it's the right decision. She did great, but she has taken the team as far as she can. Be interesting to see who they offer it to. Anyone in mind that you would quite like to see come in?
Well, like, there's a lot of names doing the round, and I think we can say some names and be in dreamland if we want, which is perfect.
This is the fun part.
Exactly. We can kind of go, oh, this person would be great. Like, I seen Laura Harvey's name in the paper today, and I just
I laughed
so hard inside. It's like, yeah, brilliant, but like, we absolutely have no chance. Like, she's probably in line to be the USA coach now. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's
some
the
of the lists and some of the names that are being thrown around at the moment very much feel like people don't know a lot of women's coaches' names, and they're like, oh, this person would be cool and interesting. That's totally a viable thing. In fairness, Vera Pauw did come out of nowhere, so that could be the case again. But as you say, Laura Harvey,
I think
unlikely.
That's probably a little bit unlikely. Yeah. Like, I hope that they do go around the recruitment process like rigorously, because there are some good managers, and if we can coax them, but a lot of them are in good jobs at the moment. Like, one name which I said to you earlier on, which also appeared, which is a bit left field, was Matt Beard, and he came into my head when we said that we'd record last night. I was like, I would probably not want to really lose him from Liverpool. I think he's done a really good job, but maybe he is somebody that wouldn't mind coming into an international gig. You know, he's managed clubs for a long time. He's won WSLs. He knows a lot of our Irish players.
Niamh Fahey, get working, please.
Niamh Fahey, Megan Campbell, Jan Kiernan. Like, he's worked with all these. And anytime I've heard interviews with former players and players that have retired, friend of Off the Ball, Julie Flaherty being one, they always go on about how great of a manager he is, not only from the football side but also as a people manager, and something like that where somebody has a lot of respect and knows the game. I think that's what this team need, because they need to also respect the person that's coming in.
And he's also very into the development of players in the long term as well, which is something that we need. Like, we talked a lot, obviously we just had Anya O'Gorman retiring, but also there's a lot of other players there who are probably at most have like another year or two in them, and we need to make sure that the pipeline coming behind them can, you know, continue the success that we have had in getting to a World Cup and hopefully improving on it.
We do. We need to, especially in defence. And actually, Matt, that's one of Matt Beard's strong points, is his defence. And when we've got players that probably are coming near the end of their careers, hopefully we get another few years out of them. But like Niamh Fahey, Louise Quinn, Diane Caldwell, they're three stalwarts of Irish football, but they're not going to last forever, and we need to start seeing the movement. Probably unlikely, but I think that's probably one person that's actually kind of in reach. So if you were going down that road, the other name which I think keeps coming up and it's definitely not going to happen is Casey Stoney. Her family have just moved to San Diego, so I can't see it happening. She has signed Kira Caruso obviously as well, so she has probably keeping an eye on a few Irish games as well. I can't see it happening. I think if that was to happen, we would be literally popping champagne.
We will jump on a microphone and we will just say, pop, 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 and we'll be clicking all the way.
Like, we can get a campaign going, like, you know, bring in Casey, like,
please,
and your cooler box as well, we'll take that as well. Another name which in my head would be great, but she's definitely not going to come, is Carla Ward. I'm just such a big fan of Aston Villa and how they've played and what she's done and how she's turned them around. It's just been incredible, and she's a coach and a manager that's on the rise, but Villa is too much of a good project at the moment. But if the FAI were going out seeking that type of manager or going after the likes of her, that would be, I'd be impressed with that. Like even to see her name linked or conversations are being had, even if she doesn't come, it's a move in the right direction.
It's kind of unfortunate that Northern Ireland got a manager like Tanya Oxtoby. I mean,
a similar kind of
long last, they actually have a manager. I mean, that search went on for far too long, but that sort of manager would have been really good for us. Someone who's worked under Emma Hayes, who's like, as you say, up and coming manager. I wonder, is there anyone in Carla Ward's kind of like background staff or something who would come and join us? But yeah, no, I totally agree with all the names that you've put there. I think those are definitely the sort of names that the FAI need to be looking and not afraid, because it's a good project, it's an interesting project. Like, there's a lot of really talented young players coming through who we actually didn't get to see at the World Cup as well. You know, you look at the likes of Jessu, who's out, even Ellen Malloy, you know, all those younger ones who Jessie Stapleton. There's a lot more to come from these Irish players, and I think if we can get someone good who comes in, nurtures the talent in the league, and is also looking at the, you know, the championship where a lot of Irish players are playing now, I think it would be interesting. Dave Fitzlike says qualifying for the Euros is the priority, and if it's a close call, I'd have given Vera Pauw the benefit of the doubt, as she's proven able for that. To clear the air with the players and apply a filter to her press dealings is far less work than someone new coming in starting from scratch. Interesting that he thinks it's able to kind of like clear the air with the players would be easier. I actually don't know, man. Like,
I hope they do. Like,
yeah, of course. You know, like at the end of the day, as you said at the start, she is always going to be a part of our history, and she is always going to have that mantle of I brought them to the first ever World Cup. And I don't think, like, I think history as well will definitely be kind, in the sense that after a while, everyone, including the players, will probably forget bits of what has happened over the last couple of months, and it'll just be like, that was a fun time. At Les Tunes says, I'm not sure it's the right decision, but then again, we aren't privy to everything. Also, is this a reaction to the report from the US that came out last December? I don't think so.
I think feel that way.
No, I think this is just a general build-up of things. Emma, thank you very much for joining me for this emergency COYGIG podcast. I hope everyone enjoyed. We will be back for the start of the WSL season, providing that nothing else too dramatic happens in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, we've got the friendly in the Aviva first.
Oh yeah, we have the friendly in the Aviva first, so we will be back for that. The COYGIG Pod on Off the Ball is sponsored by Cadbury, official snack partner to the Republic of Ireland women's national team. Thank you very much for listening, and we will see you very soon.
The COYGIG Pod on Off the Ball, in association with Cadbury, official snack partner of the Republic of Ireland women's national team.